Hello guys, welcome back. So in the last video that I spoke about habits, I majorly spoke about two things. One is the impact of very small habits that we think they are not really impactful in our life, and I spoke about how very small habits they are actually very transformative, and they are the basis, the foundation of changing our life, of transforming us. And I also spoke about building a system, having up a system that will maintain you in the level that you're able to achieve success, and also enable you to keep on working, without necessarily just setting goals and losing the momentum that you had when you achieve the goal. So I've been reading the second chapter of the book Atomic Habits, and it's I'll say so far this book has proven to be, I'll say, one of my best books among many others. And so in chapter 2, James Clear speak about the concept of how habit they form your identity, and how identity also influence your habit. All right, so it's a two-sided coin concept. So one, many of us, when we try to change our habits, or let me say when we try to become someone, when we try to transform ourselves, we usually start at a very wrong place. So that is the basis of what James Clear speaks about. So, and in the roadmap for transformation, there are three phases that usually influence the way we change, or the way we become. So at the very core, we have identity. All right, at the very center of transformation, we have identity, and outside identity, we have the process, and ultimately we have the outcome. So we have identity at the very core, we have the process, and then we have the outcome. So the problem is that many of us usually start from the outcome and try to, we are trying to change the core, but we usually start from the outcome, which is a very difficult process. So an example will be, for example, if I want to become fit, so the first thing that many people will do is that they will set a goal. So they will say, I want to become fit. That is the outcome. I want to have maybe 6 packs. And then they will now try to adapt the process. They try to adapt the process by now going to the gym the first week, the second week. And then by the time they are on the 5th week, they're already exhausted, or they've already lost the momentum. And not because going to the gym is bad, but simply because they do not identify with the person they are trying to become. All right. So basically, their identity is denying, or is refusing to approve of this new process, because they have not really identified with the person they are trying to become. So James Clear says simply that that the thing that we need to do is to start at the very core, which is identity. All right, so we need to first identify ourselves as the person who we want to become, and then now the process should validate the person whom we have already identified with. All right, so the basis is James Clear says that our aim should not be to do something, or just to achieve a goal. If we really want to be transformative in our lives, our aim should be actually to become that person that we want, that the process will bring about. So for example, if you're trying to just play a violin, you should consider yourself to become a musician. All right, and when you identify yourself as a musician, then the action that you do will needs to validate that you're a musician. And for you to maintain this action, you need to maintain that identity. You need to continuously identify yourself as a musician. In other words, this is I'll say two things that complement each other. The action that you do, they validate your identity, and your identity is something that will push you to prove yourself by doing action that correlate to that identity. Right? So, and it gives an example. For example, if you have two people who are trying to quit smoking, yeah, and then one person simply says that when he's given a smoke, he says, I don't want to smoke because I want to quit smoking. So at the very surface, this answer seems very okay, and actually it is okay. But at the core of this answer, it simply reflects that this person has not really given up that identity as a smoker. He still feels that he is a smoker, right? So that is an example that James Clear gives. And he says, you have another person who is trying to quit smoking, but when you give him the smoke, he says, I'm not a smoker, I have quit smoking, so I don't smoke. He says, in this, when you compare these two cases, the person who says is not a smoker is more likely to maintain that identity and to actually leave smoking for good, as compared to the person who says I'm just struggling to. All right. So the basis of becoming someone, of being transformed to become someone, as James Clear put it, is that we need to start with identity. You need to build an identity and then validate that identity with small habits. Yeah, with the small habits that you develop step by step, and then those habits ultimately needs to point back. Every time when you think about stopping that habit, then you need to remind yourself that you are that person, and that is how you maintain that habit. All right. So the step of transformation is very simple, as he puts it. That number one, you have to start with identity, and then you have to build up behavior that correlate or validate that identity, and ultimately you'll be able to be transformed. And this has challenged me in a bigger way, because the way he put it is that many of us we have built identity around ourselves without even knowing. Have you had, or even you yourself, or even I myself, many times you'll say, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at technology, I'm not good, I'm not a morning person, I cannot run, I cannot do this. These are simply identities that we have built in our lives, and we go on validating this identity. We go on, when someone says let's go play football, or let's go running, you say I cannot run, I'm not a runner. Wake up in the morning to do some maybe workout or studies, say I'm not a morning person. It's something that we constantly identify ourselves with, and we go a step further by validating them through the action that we do. And as such, this become the very core of our life, and that is why transforming it or changing to a new you becomes really hard. And that is why, for you to transform, for you to become a new person, then you need to identify yourself as the new you, and then now start trying to validate yourself through the habit that person usually adopts. And he give an example about his friends, and he says one of his friends wanted to become healthy, and the process was very simple. That she simply said, I am a healthy person, all right? And then after constantly identifying herself as a healthy person, every time she will go maybe to McDonald's or maybe out, and they will bring something that is not healthy, she will remind herself that I am a healthy person. What do healthy person do? That is the second step. They eat healthy, and so she will avoid eating unhealthy. By maintaining that for a couple of I think months, she was able to become very healthy, actually, from a very unhealthy situation. And so that is it, guys. The foundation of every transformation is by first identifying yourself, or building an identity around it, and then validating that identity by the habits that you do. And beside that, guys, I have developed some courses, and I've already released one of the courses, which is basically AI, learning how to build website and integrating chatbot and integrating beautiful workflow. So if you want to see it, you can check that course. It's one of my videos here, and also another course is coming along, actually 2 courses. And if you want to support me, you can also go to my website, kevinamai.com, and you'll be able to learn together. And with that, guys, all the best in your endeavors, and until we meet again, bye bye.